Reality is like a film set. There are directors,
Action!
producers,
Are we on schedule?
and even actors.
Can somebody get me a coffee?
The trick is realizing that you are playing all of these roles. You are the executive producer of your reality. My name is Daniel,
My name is Lauren.
and we're here to break the fourth wall to discover what's behind the scenes. And what you hear just might have you saying, "That's so meta."
So welcome to That's So Meta, where we discuss the mystical, magical, and metaphysical. I'm your host, Lauren Murray.
And I'm your co-host, Daniel James. And we have another special guest on the show, and this is my friend, Rachel Archelaus. Rachel, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. We're still a little new to having guests on the show, but it's definitely something that we want to integrate more. And I definitely thought that you were one of the first people that came up when I wanted to start, considering who to interview, because I've actually known you for almost 7 years now, which is crazy. And I'm going to explain how we met, but it's crazy to think about how long that is in the scope of things. So let's get into it. Rachel is the creator, the owner of the Intuitive Art Academy, also the channeler for Intimate Alien, and a very beautiful and expressive person. So Rachel, thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. And I kind of, in a way, I felt like I kind of owed it to you. And I'll explain why, okay? So let's take the story back to the beginning, 2015, okay? I was producing my sci-fi movie, Those Who Seek, which was sort of my journey into channeling and a really big, expressive movie about my passion for extraterrestrials. And so the hosts of the channel panel, which was Rob Gauthier and Kalina Angel, they invited me to come out to Los Angeles from Pittsburgh to do some filming for the movie. So I went out there and did that, which was crazy because I was still relatively new to the channeling community. I was still new to the channeling industry at the time. I was like a nobody, who just wanted to do this little indie film. And, Rob was so wonderful bringing me in and introducing me to everybody and getting me involved. And so I fly out there to do my thing, and I meet all these amazing people and some of the bigger names in the channeling industry at the time. And then I met you there, and I didn't know who you were at the time. I wasn't familiar with, who Rachel was. And to me, I had no scope of reference. I just thought you were like another fan who was there to enjoy the show, kind of like I was, but I was also doing some filming as well. And that's where you and I met. And I remember that we talked a few times. We had a few short little chats and got to know each other a little bit. And then flash forward a little bit. I fly home. I'm working on the movie, and you and I could connect online. And it was shortly after that, I can't remember if it was 2016, it was late 2015 or 2016, you had invited me on one of your YouTube shows. Can you tell me about that? Can you refresh my memory on that?
Well, I'm super bad with dates, so I don't remember when it was, but I remember we were talking about your channeling and your movie. I think maybe your movie was out by then, and I'd watched it with my friends, and yeah, learning more about your story. And I just like connecting with people who have stuff going on in this arena because, I feel like there are a bunch of us, but I don't necessarily connect with all of them. So yeah, it was just really great to hear more about you and your story and to connect again. Like you said, we've met in person, which is really rare too.
Yeah, we have. There's so many of us online who know each other and have a familiarity by connecting through Facebook. And if you're in the channeling community, it can be small from one perspective, or it could also be very large. But when you are a channeler, then the community seems smaller, I feel like, at that point. Well, at least when you connect to the other channelers. And so you don't get to meet a lot of people in person. So that was a cool little synchronicity that we had met as strangers to each other at the time, synchronistically, and then developed a friendship online after the fact. So that's cool. The way those things kind of work out. And then the second time you brought me on was for your Intimate Alien show, where I got to ask Intimate some questions. And so Lauren, are you familiar with Intimate Alien?
Yeah, I mean, through you, I've kind of been introduced to it. But would you like to tell us a little bit more about Intimate Alien, like who they are and?
Sure. Yeah. So, well, I consider myself a group being. I'm sure a lot of people are. It's kind of like seeing yourself as your oversoul self. So
Right.
that's how I identify. Because I do feel like Rachel is like the culmination of like several separate beings. And so I don't feel like I'm just one blended soul inside expressing. I feel like I'm a bit of all of that. And Intimate Alien is one of those. And so there's a part of her that's always with me and was since I was born. But I've also have been like letting her come forward for a few years now. And she just loves being on earth and interacting with people and getting this experience of like being in a body because she is a Pleiadian living on like a star that doesn't have any physicality. So she is super into just this whole experience of life and living in this dimension. And she's a lot of fun. So she also loves expressing through makeup and color and clothes and all that stuff.
Very cool. It's special and unique to me. I'm a channeler as well, and I one thing that I find really fascinating is like the fluidity between Rachel and Intimate. And I would say over the years, now that we're coming on 6-7 years that we've known each other, the integration of Intimate and Rachel has blended so much that like sometimes whether I'm just checking out your Instagram, your Facebook, your social media, the line is very thin at all times of who is present. And that's a special thing because I have a very similar sort of, I don't really know what the word is, but I have a similar relationship to my other counterparts in terms of like ET consciousness, higher self, higher mind, things like that. And I phase in and out of other personalities and personas and aspects of myself that exist in other densities in very subtle ways. But there's always like the presence with me. And I don't wear it as much in my human 3D avatar, but I feel the presence. And with you, it's more expressive and more integrated, which I think is really cool. I'm a big fan of that. And you could even teach that, how to integrate more of other aspects of ourselves into the human aspect to allow those other fractals of our greater self to be more present. That'd be really cool. I would love to hear your perspective on that integration process as well, because I think what I'm really trying to say here is that there is a very beautiful sort of multi-presence to you.
Thanks.
Whether, like I said, whether I'm just neutrally observing your social media or I'm talking to you, you're integrating more aspects of yourself that seem to be more present in the human form. So that's really cool.
It's funny. If you knew me when I was younger, I did have more of an integration. Like I almost got kicked out of middle school for dyeing my hair purple because back then, like it was seen as a distraction or like you were a bad kid if you wanted to do that. So I had to go around and ask all my teachers if it was okay because my principal was like, yeah, you got to leave until you take care of that. And I was always like super happy and loving and expressive. And I feel like much more of an outward integration and inward, just personality wise. And then I had this kind of big crash in my teen years where I went through this big depression and, lots of stuff happened, like life and paranormal. And after that, I kind of had to rebuild myself as a human being. And it took a really long time. Like Intimate Alien asked me if she could be more present in my life again, I think in 2016.
Okay.
And I hadn't done much. Like I got really like boring as a human, like I wasn't doing much with my hair. I was a little bit here and there, but when it came to like really opening up and being that like expressive, loving self again, it really took many, many years. And her coming back in at that time really bumped that all up. And I remembered like, oh yeah, I used to have a lot more of this ease of flow and
Hmm.
relationships, and like it's so funny that she helped me be more human in a way, because then I realized like, oh, being human's all about relationships and like loving people and being tolerant and seeing the best in everyone. And one thing I love about her is like she only sees your full self, like your fully integrated, higher dimensional and everything else self. And so she would never see anyone as like maybe how they see themselves, like missing something or lacking something or having done a bad job. And that's really influenced me in so many amazing ways.
I love that. As I listen to you talk about it, I can't help but compare my own situation. Um, so without diving too deep into the technical aspects of it, I have a strong understanding and awareness of who I am in another incarnation, and I identify very much with that aspect of myself. Oftentimes, less so Daniel James over that persona, and to express who I am in that version of reality would be really challenging here, and because I can't really find anything that resembles what I'm familiar with there. So, I mean, that's everything. That's not just the language. That's the clothing, the culture, the lifestyle, the day-to-day things, the technology. None of it is even close to anything I can use here outside of fantasy and art to express. So it'd be more challenging for me personally to bring that aspect into Daniel James on a regular basis or in a more public way, just because of the technical limitations that we have in a 3D society, which is why I became sort of like a filmmaker and a storyteller and a writer, because it was easier. There were less limitations and there was less of a translation issue when you're just making a film or doing some sort of art that serves as that platform and that medium for you to express what you're seeing in your mind and you're feeling in your heart. So that's why I feel like I was led into filmmaking and storytelling at a young age. Like even I think the age of 16 was when I wrote my first script, because like there's no limitations there, and there's less judgment, and you can kind of go wherever you need to in that sort of entertainment, artistic, expressional way. And I've been kind of on that pursuit my whole life. Like, I've been chasing that sort of story, that aspect of myself through entertainment. So that's my way of expressing. I guess that's my way of connecting to the other aspects of myself that I identify with so much. So once again, like I'm still really impressed with your ability to integrate here in the body. So super cool. That's kind of like how I see it.
Well, on that same note, is there are there any ways that you have experienced like intimate aliens culture since integrating her more? Because it sounds to me like she experiences ours with the makeup and the expression here. Is there any like reverse angle of that with her, where you get to experience her culture?
Yeah, it actually happened before I, like met her face to face, because I've always been part of her, but she hadn't ever like, spoken to me directly until that 2016 moment. But I got I'm going to forget the name. It was like some kind of hypnosis where they bring you to your past lives. It has like a name to it. But anyway, somebody did that for me. And that's when I first saw her planet. And I remember I was kind of like floating in space, and I just saw this big giant gas ball and I started to cry. And I just felt like that's home. And I'm not one of those star seeds that's like always thinking that, I'm fine here. I've always really enjoyed this planet. And I never even really had an inkling that I was a part of this galactic community, really until that session. And then it turns out, gosh, there's like way even too much to notice or talk about. But like, yeah, and that I saw her planet, and I was like so just overwhelmed with emotion. And then, I went in and I got to see her magenta gas ball, which is what she usually is while she's there, and all these other gas balls flying around. And I just like, oh, I just felt so at home. And that was so surprising to me. I had no idea any of that was going to happen, because the session was supposed to be about talking to my higher self and going to past lives, but I didn't know it was going to be on a different planet. So yeah, that was really my first initiation into that. And then since then, a lot of people have asked her about what it's like on her planet, and what's your society like, and how do you manifest things. And so really through other people's questions to her, I've gotten to experience a lot of what she does on a daily basis and how she connects with people. And yeah, it's been really eye-opening, and also feels really familiar, because it is, it's always been in there. I just never uncovered it before.
Very cool. I love that. Awesome. Have you ever heard of LBL therapy or life between life regression therapy? It's a type of hypnosis. It's a type of regression therapy, but they call it like LBL, life between life.
I'm familiar with like the concept, and I remember this was called quantum healing hypnosis.
Okay.
But no, I haven't heard of that specifically.
Cool. Just curious. It was made famous by Michael Newton from the Journey of Souls books. If you ever heard
yeah, that was the first series of books that ever felt like, oh my God, finally somebody I can connect with.
Yeah, I reference those books often, because that, like, when I was having my spiritual awakening in 2012, like those books were sort of like the catalyst to my awakening. And then I got into more complicated stuff like the Seth material after that. But like the Journey of Soul stuff was really fascinating. And then I discovered the life between life regression. And there's people that practice it still all over the country now.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do you want to tell us some more about the Intuitive Art Academy?
Sure.
Yeah, like to describe, take it from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Tell us, what is the Intuitive Art Academy?
Well, I'll tell you what intuitive art is. So intuitive art is just a way to have a conversation with your higher self. So when you were talking about like helping people become more integrated, I feel like that's what I do in all of my work. It's just not always about channeling, but it's like channeling yourself. So intuitive art is just where you ask yourself a question, and you close your eyes and you scribble on a piece of paper, and that becomes your answer. So you're like automatic drawing. And then before you do that, we have a meditation that you can go through, so you know your personal color meanings. And that's how you decode your drawing. And we teach,
right, I remember that.
Teach people how to do that. And it's a free class if anyone wants it, on our website. And so that takes your intuition from that like vague yes or no, or sometimes really stand out yes or no. But then you can ask questions to get context, like, why is that a no? Why is that a yes? What happens if I go and do this? Because our higher selves aren't limited by time or space. So they see the whole picture. It's like having a little guide at the top of the mountain that you can talk to and be like, when it turns left there, like, do I go right or left? And so it's just really helpful for people to connect more with their fullness, and also feel more connected, because a lot of people have trouble trusting that intuition. And then when they can get more information, it helps them to follow through. So I started doing that when I was 11. I kind of just stumbled into it. And then over the next 10 years or so, I just did it for myself. And then I wondered if I could teach it. And so I taught my mom, and it turns out, yep, worked great. And so really for the last like 18 years, I've been teaching it all over the world and online and in person. And that's really how the Intuitive Art Academy started. So yeah, that was like formally created in 2014. And I created a certification so that people could become teachers and teach that to, people in their communities and online, and put their own spin on it or integrate it into their work. Like we have therapists using it, and all kinds of like energy healers and writers, and it's just a tool. So really anybody can use it. So yeah, that's really where it started. And yeah, we still do the same thing today. We keep it really simple, because I don't think any of this needs to be complicated, right? Like we can add on the layers of, interest and going back in time, and like you can find out absolutely anything you want about yourself, but connecting with your intuition is really simple.
I love that. Thank you. Very cool. I remember that you made me an image when we did my session, my YouTube, and it was like, I think it was 2016, 20. Yeah. And I vividly remember what it looks like when you made me one for the interview. And so that's cool. Appreciate that still.
Yeah. Oh, well, I have this book here. So I'm also an artist. And so intuitive art can be just like scribbles, that's information, but I also use it for art. And I just illustrated a book cover with it. So
I love that.
Wow.
yeah,
cool.
It's nice how you can use it for whatever you want.
Definitely. We had
beautiful.
learned possibly maybe a similar exercise. So you're using art and you're using colors and you're drawing and painting, right? We also learned this technique that I've experimented with quite a bit. And it's where you're just using a pen and paper, anything that you can draw with, and you're just setting an intention, whether it's like protection or manifesting tool or anything that you want to do, and you're using, you scribble and draw while you're holding this intention, and then that way the physical action is sort of anchored and imprinted, through the intention of you drawing and or painting or whatever it is onto your paper. Then that's sort of binded there and anchored into this creational tool, and then you can use that itself as. So would you say that that's sort of similar in the direction of your art? Like, are you sort of like infusing an intention, or you're just letting the expression of the action come through?
Well, it's kind of both, right? So by creating, an intuitive answer physically, you're definitely making it more of an anchor. And I have a lot of them on my wall, so I can actually refer back and like see it, and it definitely does have a bigger impact. So I'm sure having that piece of paper with your intention on it has a bigger impact because you're easily reminded of it, and the energy has been through your body and everything. So yeah, I don't think we are energy, and so anything that we can use physically to help us anchor it and experience it more is just going to add to the momentum of it.
Cool. Fun. Awesome. Well, I feel compelled to take a little left turn here. And I got to tell you that, like, side note, my mom is a big fan of your work, and she watches all your YouTube videos, my mom, Sherry. So she thinks it's really cool that you're on That's So Meta because, like, she watches all your stuff. So I had to throw that out
I
there.
love that. Hi, Mom.
Cool. Yeah. That's really fun. So what are you working on now, Rachel? Do you have any projects going on? Or I know that you mentioned that you're a writer, that you do some writing as well as maybe possible screenplays. Don't know if you can talk about that or not, but like, what are you working on now?
I'm always working on a million things because I love having variety. But like this week, let's say, I'm finishing up a screenplay for a client. I'm turning her memoir into a movie, and we're almost done, and it's really exciting. And her story is of her spiritual awakening, and so it's just been really fun to be in that. But Intimate Alien is finishing up her book right now, And we've done some photo shoots over the last few years for it. And we're creating an oracle deck kind of based on like truth or dare, like 80s style. So that's really fun. And yeah, I'm working on some, I wrote a short film that I'm revising right now and working on an outline for a feature, and just generally doing many creative things like quilting and gardening, and yeah, always making something or many things.
Very cool. I am too. We both are. I think we're always sort of like, I if I'm not overwhelming myself in projects that I can always be working at different stages of development, I feel like I'm not moving fast enough. So
Oh my gosh, me too. Yeah. There's, this ET energy that we're channeling is so fast. I feel like whenever I meet one of us, it's always like that. Yeah.
totally. It's very fast. And I explain that to people as well, that when I'm in the channeling state, I'm getting such a large volume of information downloaded all at once. And then it almost feels like it's being funneled into a smaller sort of little conduit that can interpret and then translate that energy. And so like when I'm in the channeling state and I'm verbal channeling, for me personally, there's like I can feel like a really strong fast current slowing down when it reaches like my physical mechanism, and then translating that into words. Sometimes, do you know what I mean? Fast. Like when you said fast.
The same exact interpretation of that, but I definitely feel completely energized whenever I connect like that. If I'm channeling intimate alien for myself or a video or someone else, like I could be so tired beforehand and put the makeup on and show up. And then at the end, I'm just like, okay, what do I do next? It's like totally filled up.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Rachel, as we are coming to an end here, our lovely interview, where can people find your work? Where can they get in touch with you?
Well, Instagram is great for reaching out at Rachel Archelaus. And you can find me at my website, intuitiveart.com too.
Well, thank you very much for being on the show, Rachel. We've loved having you. And like I said, it's been 6 or 7 years since we've known each other, although it doesn't feel like that. And I am grateful for the connection that we've established, and I'm glad that we met there in Los Angeles in 2015 at the Channel Panel. And I believe in the power of the synchronicities, that, time and space are a total illusion. And we are just meeting each other now for the first time. And we have also always known each other, even back in 2015.
Well said. Yes. Thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you.
Lauren?
Yeah.
That's so meta.
That's so meta. Cheers.